Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to analyze a portfolio and compare it to the market to see how the portfolio is doing. I'm going to analyze each stock by itself and as a portfolio as a whole. Now, first thing first, I wanted to pick a market to compare it to, so I used the S&P 500 and then I used our portfolio and I used the annual data for the past 4 years. So the S&P 500 averaged 17.32% return average annual return and our portfolio average 16.77% annual return. So already we can see our portfolio is averaging less return than the market. But we also have a beta of 1.03795 and using the S&P 500 as a market rate and using the 3-month treasury bill as a risk-free rate, I'll calculate our compound required return for our portfolio to be 17.98%. So now we can see there are some improvement we need to make to our portfolio because it's underperforming based on CAPM. Now, there's also another problem for our portfolio, and that is diversify. And we know for our balanced, well-performing portfolio, we need to be diversified. And I know we have 18 companies, but are we really diversified if 2 of the companies account for half the portfolio? And I really don't think that's the case, because if one of these companies goes down tomorrow, our portfolio as a whole is going to go down because there's so much weight in the portfolio. So, when it comes to adjusting the portfolio, rebalancing it, there's something we need to keep in mind. Like, I would want to balance the portfolio where the weight would be close to each other. Now, to rebalance the portfolio, I have chose to identify our 5 weakest performing stock. And for the performance, I used the same method. I compared our portfolio to the S&P 500. I used the S&P 500 as a market rate, the same risk-free rate, and then I calculate the annual return for each stock, and then use their own stock beta to calculate their compound required rate of return. And all 5 of these companies are very, very underperforming. For example, AT&T averaged the negative 4.7%, negative 0.47% per year, and the compound required rate of return is 7.11%. So all 5 of these companies are making much lower return than their compound required rate of return. So I would recommend getting rid of all these 5 companies. But before we do that, I wanted to rebalance the portfolio by weight. So what I have done is I took 100 and divided by 18, and that gave us 5.56% weight for each stock. I completely averaged out the entire portfolio by weight, and every single stock now have 5.56. Now from that point, I completely got rid of all 5 companies that were underperforming, the 5 worst performing companies, and so their weight is now 0. And I redistributed their percent into our 4 best performing stocks. I gave Bristol's, Comcast, Home Depot 11.11% each, and then I gave our best performing stock, Tyson Food, a 16.67%. Now, I ranked the performers not based on their actual annual return, but the difference between their annual return and their CAPM. For example, Tyson Food did not have the highest annual return, but they had the lowest beta, and their compound required return is very low. So the difference between that was much higher than everyone else. So I have chosen them to be our best performing stock. Now, I want to remind you that I used the annual data, and this is just based on an average percent for the past 4 years. There's also some other things you want to keep in mind of. For example, the best performing stock I chose, Tyson Food. They are mostly from the first 2 years, and the very last year they had a negative return. So if you go into more detail, you might want to look into monthly data, look into the trend of the stock price. But to be simple, I just simply did it by annual average return. So after I adjusted the portfolio, our portfolio now is averaging a 20.99% annual return with a beta of 0.8889 and a compound required rate of return of 15.4%. Now our portfolio is averaging higher return than the market and have a lower beta. So I would be very happy if the historical data is accurate enough for us to project the future stock price. But there's no real way to predict it, but this is what I think is the best way to do it. And To conclude my presentation, I simply gave you the rebalanced portfolio. I used the weight I assigned each company and backed out their number of shares we should have based on today's stock price. Now I know that we only have 13 stocks now, but they're very balanced. But if you wanted to have more stocks, say 15 to 20, what we could have done is, for the five companies we sold, we could have bought new stocks, preferably ones that complement our existing stocks very well. It would be that would be also a good choice to rebalance our portfolio. And this concludes my presentation on the portfolio analysis. Thank you very much.